Okay, Be'ezrat Hashem, Naaseh v'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to another lesson of our Parashat Vayakhel-Pikudey Sharone. Baruch Hashem, we've been doing this for some time over here, so before we get started with today's lesson, I'd like to give an honorable mention for our sponsors, Judah Mendel and Mendel Law. I also want to give an honorable mention to our honorable students, I'll call them, that come and learn with us every single week, which is Dov and Pesi and Henchi, and Baruch Hashem, we have over here some other regulars over here. We have Sandra and we have Renee, Echana, and what's your name? And we have a Kohen amongst us. Hashem Vayakhel-Pikudey Sharone for taking the effort to come over here. One, you get the sachar for actually coming and learning in person. It's way different than doing it online. That's number one. So good for you. Secondly, if it's not for you, I wouldn't be here. And because we are here and we're recording, it would be surprised. Some classes get thousands of views. Some classes get hundreds of views. But because we are here together as a collective effort, more people are learning. And it's a beautiful thing, because this is mamash da'adit Torah v'la'adira. It's a joint effort. Because you are here, I am here, the technology is helping us, and the Torah is getting out there. So Shem Vayakhel-Pikudey Sharone and all that you do. Alright, where I got a double header, Vayakhel-Pikudey, and that also wraps up the Sefer of Shemot. That means that this Shabbat, at the end of the reading, we're going to say Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. This is going to be a very good, very, very powerful parasha. A lot of pesukim. Anybody who does Shlomo Mikra v'Echad Targum is going to be very busy. Over 200 pesukim in this week's double header. However, if you look into it, I'll give you the short of the long, the nutshell of the parasha. The first few pesukim deal with Shabbat, and the rest of the pesukim all have to do with things that pertain to the Mishkan. It's like almost like a rundown of all the things that were there: the kleshim, the wood, the gold, the fabrics, all the different things that are there. Over and over and over there, the measurements. A big review of what the past few parashiyot have been. So obviously, we've already discussed some of the things that have to do with the Mishkan. Today, I'd like to ask a few questions and maybe just hone in on one thing. If you recall, last week we discussed Het HaEgel, right? So why would Het HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf, would be juxtaposed with the articles of the Mishkan, right? Why do we have Het HaEgel and all the things that pertain to the Mishkan right next to each other, like little neighbors in the Torah? Why would that be? The sin of the golden calf. The building of the Mishkan, all the things, the articles to build the traveling tabernacle. So the rabbis tell us that the Mishkan, that the Mishkan has the power to atone for the sins of a person, to atone for the sins of the Jewish people. That's the power of the traveling tabernacle. Okay? Now, why do we have the traveling tabernacle? Because the Jewish people sinned with the Egel. So we see, because they sinned with the golden calf, comes the Mishkan in order to atone for the sin. So the reason why the Egel and the Mishkan are right next to each other, to teach us that the Mishkan atones for the sins of the people. That the Mishkan atones for the sin of the golden calf. That the Mishkan atones for Avodah Zarah. Now, if that's the case, why in Parashat Vayakhel, the opening line is Shabbat? It says, Vayakhel Moshe et kol adat bnei Yisrael v'omer lahem. Moshe he assembled all the Jewish people, and he tells them, Ele advarim asher tzivah Hashem la'asot otam. These are the things that God commanded us to do. Sheshet yamim te'aseh melacha, u'vayom ha'shevi'i yeh lachem kodesh Shabbat Shabbaton Hashem. 6 days you work. On the 7th, it's a holy day. You refrain from working. Kol ha'oseh bo melacha yumat. Anybody who works on Shabbat, death. By the way, it still applies today. Just that half the world got desensitized to it doesn't mean that this rule changed. This rule is still in effect. It's spiritual excommunication. That means the neshama is not connected to the top. It's spiritual excommunication. You need to tie it back up with a little bow tie if anybody's desecrating Shabbat. He needs to do it because... Nice. That's fine, but I mean, you're doing mitzvot, but you're not connected. It's like you're plugging in. You're trying to charge your iPhone, but it's not plugged into the wall. What is that going to do? Don't. The whole thing is it's very complicated. I don't want to give a black and white answer. A person's teshuvah, a person's fervor to do a mitzvah. Hashem calculates all that, but let's just learn black and white halakha. You desecrate Shabbat, kareh. Okay? Everything else of how Hashem calculates it, let's leave it to Hashem. The next pasuk says, "Lo tevaru esh b'chol mosvodechem b'yom Shabbat." You can't start the fire in your homes on Yom Shabbat. So why is Vayakhel starting off with the mitzvah of Shabbat? Well, this is something very interesting that is very much connected to what we just learned about the Mishnah and Chet HaEgel, that it atones for sins. Masechet Shabbat says, "Kol hameshamer Shabbat k'ilchata, afilo oved avodah zara kedor enosh mochlim lo." Anybody who keeps Shabbat properly, even if he worships idols or does avodah zara, idolatry, like the original first generation that started idolatry, it's called Dor Enosh, the generation of Enosh, he's forgiven. Keep Shabbat, forgiven. Buy down to a Buddha, go into a church, come keep Shabbat, say, I'm not doing that anymore, I'm keeping Shabbat, forgiven. Continues to say, anybody who keeps Shabbat, it's as if he kept the entire book. Take 25 hours off, keep it properly, it's like you perform all 613. Imagine, what a hack, what a shortcut. And it's furthermore, it says, Shabbat, by anyone who desecrates Shabbat and doesn't keep it, anybody doesn't walk around who doesn't keep Shabbat, as if he's saying this entire book is not true. Well, by not keeping what's on the Ten Commandments, you're saying that the whole book is nullified. Furthermore, because it counts as if it's keeping Shabbat is like keeping the entire Torah. Lachen shekula Shabbat keneged kol mitzvot. Take all the mitzvot on one side and put Shabbat. Same thing. It outweighs shekula keneged kol mitzvot. It outweighs all the mitzvot. Furthermore, afilu matzila mimavet. Shabbat saves a person from death. And how do we know that? Well, this is a midrash. We said it in many different classes in detail. I'm just going to say it very quickly. Adam HaRishon sinned, and he was supposed to die. He sinned on Friday. He was supposed to die on Saturday. So Shabbat, the day, comes to God and says, Hashem, every single day got its glory. The sun, the moon, the animals, the fish, the birds. Comes Shabbat, I'm going to be known for the first murder in history, for the first death in the world is going to happen on Shabbat. And because Shabbat stood up for Adam HaRishon, saved Adam HaRishon, and we know that later on there's more details to the story, but bottom line, Shabbat saved Adam HaRishon. That's what that song that we sang Shabbat, Shir Mizmor L'Yom HaShabbat, Tov Leodot L'Adonai, V'Zamer Shimcha Elyon. Who's that? That's Adam HaRishon and Shabbat, both singing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a song that was offered by Adam HaRishon that they sang in praise to God that He saved them. They praised the day. Furthermore, Shabbat is where all the person's livelihood comes from. Shabbat kihi mekor haparnasa. Right? Excuse me. You might quickly go down. Go here. Kihi mekor haberacha. What's Mikor Beracha? The source of all the blessings comes from Shabbat. Now, this is very interesting and very powerful, if you ask me. Saves you from death, atones all sins, counts as if you keep the entire Torah, all the Parnassah comes from it, all this wrapped up in one day. Even more interesting, if you want to think about it, there's more. There's more happening on Shabbat. There's more, there's more layers that are going on. I don't know if I'll be able to touch all of them, but there's a lot more layers to Yom HaShabbat. First of all, something that's interesting, people always like to learn about Parnassah. It's like a good topic. When we talk about dollars, everybody's ears stands up. Look at this pasuk. The second pasuk, it says, Sheshet yamim te'aseh melacha, u'bayom ha'shevi'i yalachem kodesh. Anybody who speaks Hebrew properly knows that. They're not hearing it properly. That should be good. Anybody who speaks Hebrew knows proper grammar in Hebrew knows that the pasuk should have read Sheshet Yamim Ta'aseh Melacha. 6 days you should do work. What do we say? Sheshet Yamim Te'aseh Melacha. 6 days the work will be done, will get done. That doesn't make sense. Now, if you look into it, there's something very interesting. Listen to this concept. The way we keep Shabbat determines the outcome of the entire week. The more you honor Shabbat, food, you honor the Shabbat with food, with drink, with learning, with prayer, with rest, with song, with nice clothing, with joy and happiness, the more you enjoy your day off, the more successful you're going to be in the work week. What? It's so revolutionary, this type of thinking, because most people don't think that. Most people think the harder I work during the week is the more money I'm going to make. In reality, the more you rest, the more you enjoy Shabbat, is how your whole success of the week is hinged on it. Isn't that incredible? Doesn't that give you like doesn't that motivate you to just have the best day off of the week and then not worry about the 6 days? Imagine, the happier you are, the better the wine, the better the food, the better the jacket, the better the tefillah, the more learning that you do, you walk into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, relaxed. You already did the work. Shabbat already set up for you the rest of the week. That's why it says, for those of you that go to shul on Friday night and says, Lecha Dodi, right? What does it say? Ki hi mekor haberacha. The Shabbat is the source of the blessing. Oh, you mean it's not Monday, Tuesday when I get that meeting? It's not when I go on that meeting on Wednesday, or it's not when I go to that, when I send that email, or when I do that Zoom call. No. Mekor HaBeracha is Shabbat. And it all depends on how you honor the Shabbat. Now before you can get to this high level of enjoying Shabbat, because it is a high level, you have to prepare for it, right? You can't just walk into Shabbat and think that it's just going to happen like this. There's a rule. Mi shetarach be'erev Shabbat, yochal b'Shabbat. If you took time to prepare your Shabbat is going to be good. If you took time prepared to cook food for Shabbat, you're going to have food for Shabbat. What does that mean? If you took the time during the week to learn Torah, you're going to have a Dvar Torah for the table. If you took time to have nice clothes for Shabbat, cleaners, or maybe you went and you bought something, you're going to look nice on Shabbat. If you went to the store and you bought the meat and the fish and the vegetables and you cooked, you're going to have an amazing meal on Shabbat. If you went to the store and you chose between this one and that one, then you're going to have the proper wine for Shabbat. You have to work in order to make the Shabbat a good Shabbat. But here is something a little bit deeper. about preparing the Shabbat. A little bit of a deeper understanding. What we just described is an elementary level preparation for Shabbat. We've been doing it for years. We go to the store, we get the wine, we get the vegetables, we get the rogalach, right? We get the dessert, we pick up the cleaners, robots, right? We became robots. Shabbat, yeah, we're going to sing, we're going to pray. Is that really the preparation of Shabbat? Is that what really activates the magic of Shabbat? Well, on a pshat level, let's say yes. Okay? On a simple level, yeah. You're honoring the Shabbat. Everything that you're doing is in honor of the Shabbat. But since we're not novices anymore, right? Since everybody here comes to shul to learn Torah, let's step it up a notch, right? Let's understand our understanding of Shabbat and preparing for Shabbat to the next level. It says in the next pasuk, and by the way, that's all we're going to learn today, 2 pasukim. Lo teva'aru esh bechol moshvotechem beyom HaShabbat. Do not start a fire or burn fire in your homes on Shabbat. Now, this is so interesting because over here in Shvilei Pinchas, he brought a very interesting way of learning this, which says, Lo teva'aru esh bechol moshvotechem beyom HaShabbat. Don't burn fire in your homes on Shabbat, meaning, don't be on fire only on Shabbat. Right? On Shabbat, we get so excited. Oh, the food. Oh, the drink. The guests. Shul. Singing. Whiskey club. Oh, you know, the rabbi's class. Everybody has their thing that they love on Shabbat, right? The rabbi says, no, don't just be on fire just on Shabbat. That's wrong. He says, don't be only connected on Shabbat. Don't make it a one-day event. And why would that be? Why should Shabbat be anything more than a one-day event? Well, listen to this. The Khatam Sofer says, don't burn the desire for Shabbat only on Shabbat. Lo teva'aru esh, don't burn esh beyom HaShabbat, just on Shabbat. Why? Because the fire and the fervor for Shabbat needs to start from the weekdays. Shabbat starts from the weekdays. How? Shabbat is Shabbat, weekdays is weekdays. What are you trying to say, Khatam Sofer? This is incredible. And we're going to read this from the book. It says in Shvilei Pinchas, the rabbi brings something beautiful over here. In the year Tafshin Ayin Aleph, in that set, in Parashat Vayakhel, it says that the hitlahavut, that fervor that a person has for Shabbat, should not be only on Shabbat, rather it should start on Yemei Achol. Okay, why? It says in Sefer Shemot, it says Zechor et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho. Very famous line that we have to remember the Shabbat to sanctify it. How do you remember the Shabbat to sanctify it? So he says like this. The Ramban says in Mechilta that there's a mitzvah to mention the Shabbat every single day. How do we remember? How do we remind Shabbat? How do we mention Shabbat every single day? Can anybody tell me? Where?
No, wait. No, I can't think now.
Shir Shel Yom. When we say Hayom Yom Echad b'Shabbat Kodesh. Hayom Yom Sheni b'Shabbat Kodesh. Hayom Yom Shlishi b'Shabbat Kodesh. Zachor, remember, et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho. How do we remember Shabbat every single day? In the Shir Shel Yom, in the prayers. Okay. Furthermore, the Khatam Sofer says, when it says Zechor et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho, it says that Sheshet Yamim you have to work to take care of your worldly matters, right? The mundane. Yom Shavi'i, the seventh day is for Hashem. And it says, Lo taseh kol melacha ata ubincha uvatecha. You're not allowed to work on that day. However, we know that Mi shetarach be'erev Shabbat yuchal b'Shabbat. Mi shelo tarach be'erev Shabbat mechan yuchal b'Shabbat. In other words, if you are not going to prepare for Shabbat the entire week, you're not going to be able to enjoy it properly. How is that? It says, in Lecha Dodi, what do we say? Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor ha-beracha. What's Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha? In other words, we're always going Likrat Shabbat. Our lives are all towards Shabbat. I don't know about you, but we live for Shabbat. Our whole life is surrounded around Shabbat. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday leads to Shabbat. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, wound down from Shabbat. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, shopping, cooking, cleaning for Shabbat. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, relaxing, getting ready for Shabbat. Actually, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is the idea is, what are we going to eat this Shabbat? What are we going to get? We eat this, we eat that. It's like the first 3 days we think about it. The last 3 days we go into action.
We discussed about, it's a din after once Shabbos. Like, I know right before Shabbos is over, like I was at my kids and I was telling my daughter-in-law, like I get so depressed when Shabbos is going to be over.
There's a down. A lot of Jews experience that.
And she says, well, show me Sarah is going to leave. It's like, okay.
That's what it is. Besides the Neshama Yetera, a lot of people have a down from that high because it's a very enjoyable day. Now, what's lechu v'nelcha? How do you go towards Shabbat? How do you prepare? It says, Nachin v'nadlik et or HaTorah v'mitzvot b'shem sheshet yemei achol. We prepare ourselves. We learn Torah. We perform mitzvot. We prepare for Shabbat. So like that, when it comes to Shabbat, when Shabbat says, oh, let me see what she did the entire week, and he sees the learning, he sees the mitzvot, he sees the chesed. In other words, I gave you a blessing from Shabbat for the week. Show me what you did. Report. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha. Why? It says, I gave you the blessing. Report back to me. Let's see what's the blessing that you did. And how do you report back? By preparing for the next Shabbat. It's like a beautiful cycle. Furthermore, this is the point that I really wanted to get to. It goes to, there's a concept in Judaism of yirah and ahava. Fear and love. There's a way to worship God out of fear and a way to worship God out of love. That's when we say before Klav, b'dechilu rechimu, rechimu dechilu, right? L'shem yichud kudsha b'yichud shchinteh. B'dechilu rechimu, urechimu dechilu. What's that? Out of fear and love, out of love and fear. Dechilu, fear, rechimu, ahava. That's what it says, that we're not connecting the service of God of love and fear together, fear and love together. Why are they so perfect together? What's this combination that we're always constantly doing teshuvah out of yirah and ahava, doing tefillah out of yirah and ahava? Why is Shabbat also yirah and ahava? Let's see. It says, B'imot hachol, avodah mir'ah. During the week, the way that we worship Hashem, the way that we service Hashem is which way? Out of fear. B'Shabbat, how do we service Hashem? Out of love. You can totally see there's two different energies in our service. During the week, it's one way. Shabbat is another. One is yirah, one is ahava. Now, even though that during the week, what do we say? We mention Shabbat. Hayom yom echad b'Shabbat kodesh, hayom sheni b'Shabbat kodesh. So what are we taking? We're taking the love of Shabbat and we're mixing it with the yirah of the work week. So what do we have? We have ahava and yirah working together. Ahava, pure ahava, is Shabbat. Pure chol is the weekday. But what do we try to do? We try to take the Shabbat and interlace it with our mundane. It says, Ha'adam tzarich lekasher He says you have to connect the weekdays to Shabbat because that's the days of fear, connecting them with the days of love. With the days of love, which is Shabbat. Now, since we have that concept of yirah and ahava, who lights candles over here? Right? All the ladies, they light candles. Sometimes if there's no lady, then the men have to do it, right? It's a mitzvah. So, even in the candles, we have ahava and yirah. Why? Because we have two candles. One for zachor, one for shamor, right? It tells us Zachor v'Shamor. We have to remember the Shabbat, and we have to protect the Shabbat. So it tells us that Zachor, to remember the Shabbat, that's out of love. Lishmor, that's out of Yir'ah. To show us that the candles also correspond to this love and awe, love and fear of God. Also, love and fear, Ahava and Yir'ah, but also Chol and Kodesh, the weekday and the Shabbat. What do we do in Havdalah? In Havdalah, we light a Havdalah candle. Did you ever notice how many wicks it has? Some have 3 wicks, some have 7 wicks. Did you ever see the one that looks like a challah? That one? It has 7. If you take the time to count it, there's 7. And then there's the ones that are most commonly is 3. Why? Because on Shabbat we started with Yir'ah and Ahava. We interlaced what? The weekdays and Shabbat. Comes Motzei Shabbat, says, wait, now interlace the weekdays and Shabbat with Motzei Shabbat, and it becomes now the 3. Or to represent the days of the week, the ones with 7 says interlace all the days of the week with what? With Shabbat. Interlace all the days of the week with Yir'ah and Ahava. Very, very interesting. This is the to hint to us the connection that Shabbat is in our everyday. How? We have to bring the Shabbat into the week. It's not just Friday and then Shabbat. It's just now you come, it's like these Baalei Tshuva that come to Chabad. They come, they sit, they eat, they go home. That's it. It's a Shabbat thing. It's exclusive. It's a one-day thing. It's a night thing. It's a day thing.
Make every day holy.
You have anybody who's already keeping Shabbat, you have to step your service up one level higher where, okay, Shabbat is Shabbat. We know it's an amazing day, but now we got to take from the Shabbat into Sunday, from the Shabbat into Monday, from the Shabbat into Tuesday, and so on and so forth for all the weeks. And how do we do that? You have to first understand that you can't enter Shabbat as if it's an individual day of the week. Shabbat is a full week experience. Our whole life revolves around Shabbat. Like I just said, if you're a connected Jew, your whole life does revolve around Shabbat. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday leads to Shabbat, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is either the cleanup, the whatever it is, right? As a matter of fact, the menorah it has a hint to that. It tells that the menorah has Shiva Kanim, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, and 1 in the middle. It says, what's the one in the middle? Shabbat.
And it lights all the other ones.
Right, so we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that leads to Shabbat, and then the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday after. Which we see that actually Shabbat is what? It's the center of our week. If you really think on how we live, it's not like it leads up to the weekend and then the week starts again. I don't know, the energy of how we live life, our peak of the week is Shabbat. And you could feel the build up and you can feel the cool down. I love that. The cool down of Shabbat. Now, Misha Shomer Shabbat, HaShabbat Shomeret Oto. It's a very well-known fact that anyone who keeps Shabbat, Shabbat keeps him. Shabbat protects him. How do we see that? I'll give you a story. This is a very interesting story. A very interesting story. This is a very recent story. It happened just a few months ago. I was listening to a class on Zayin Adar about Moshe Rabbeinu from a Rav Eliyahu Amar. He's a rabbi from Israel. He's known to do classes about Zera Shimshon in Hebrew. He's a good rabbi. Very interesting, good stuff when he talks. He has good schmoozes. And he tells a story about this man, and he asked that we mention this gentleman's name because they wanted to lefarsem. They wanted this to be publicized, this story, so other people can learn from it. So the name of the gentleman is Roy Guri. That's a gentleman. He's a Baal Teshuvah in his 40s. And, he comes from a traditional home. They do Friday night dinner, but right after they go in the car, maybe, they turn on the TV to go to sleep, Not necessarily, it's like a traditional home, but not a religious home. But this particular Ro'i Guri actually became a Baal Tshuva and started to keep Shabbat. And his father, who was a much older man, he was 85 years old, never kept Shabbat in his life. Now, one time when he was in shul, he heard a great shmooze about Shabbat. The rabbi came and gave a really good Dvar Torah about Shabbat, and he came home. He says, "Abba, what do you think about keeping Shabbat?" He saw his father is old. He was so excited. Yes, Abba, maybe you can keep Shabbat. He tells him, "You know what? Bo, let's do it. Hakol." So he tells him, "Wait, Abba, maybe we start slow, Maybe just Friday night, maybe something like this. Let's ease into it." He goes to him, "Bro, you don't know your father. It's either all or nothing. Everything kehilchata. Tell me what I need to do. Stand next to me every single minute of Shabbat. I don't want to desecrate Shabbat. Tell me how to keep Shabbat. I'm in." The son was so amazed by this. He says, "Wow, couldn't believe it." So Shabbat comes in, and all of a sudden he sees that his father is keeping it kehilchata. He's asking questions. Is this allowed? Is this not allowed? He's 85 years old. He even had a Filipino assistant, like a nurse. And he said he knows that you can't tell a goy to do things on Shabbat. So he asks his son, "Can I ask her to do this for me? Not do this for me?" He was so careful that mamash, after the Shabbat was over, his son was taken aback and says, "Wow, he kept it 100%. He was shocked. And not only was he shocked, he was impressed by his father. And as a matter of fact, he did the exact same thing for 3 weeks. Shabbat after Shabbat after Shabbat. And in between, I forgot what was the date. There was a few holidays also. And he said that he was amazed of how his father kept it even better than him. He was way more careful. Now, after 3 weeks, his father passes away. Arises the question, Efo kovrim oto? Where do you bury him? Because if you know about cemeteries, there's sections Shomrei Shabbat and Lo Shomrei Shabbat. The ones that kept Shabbat have a special section, and the ones that don't keep Shabbat have their own section. Where do we bury this gentleman? So they went and they asked halachic questions. They told the story, how he kept the last 3 Shabbatot. Do we bury him in the place of Shomer Shabbat or Mechalel Shabbat? This question came all the way to Chaim Kanievsky, and he says, because he kept Shabbat, and not because he was sick, and not because he was under some sort of peril, or some sort of He wasn't forced to do it. It was not forced. Asa tshuva mamash me'ava. It's as if he did teshuvah out of love. And we know that anybody that does teshuvah me'ava, כל הזדונות הופכים לא מבוטל to זכויות. When you do it out of fear, it gets nullified to 0. $1 million debt becomes 0. When you do it out of ahava, all the avonot become zchuyot. Minus 1 million becomes plus 1 million. So it says this, obviously the guy that did it out of ahava, he gets buried in the section of Shomrei Shabbat. Now, as Roy is mourning his father, on the 29th day, mamash a day before his Shloshim, he comes to him in a dream. And he comes to him in a dream, it's a very vivid dream, and he tells him, Bo, sheviti b'misada, come sit down and let's sit down and eat. Now in heaven, they don't eat falafelim and pizza, they don't eat like regular food. What do they eat over there? Torah. So they're sitting down in a restaurant to do what? To learn Gemara. So he tells him, come, tochal. And all of a sudden he sees 2 Gemarot in front of him. He opens it up. What is it? Daf Hayomi. Daf Hayomi, it's that page of Gemara that we learn on a daily basis. And it happened to be that day's daf. And it happened to be that Ro'i was studying it, and it was a very difficult page. It was the end of the Masechet, it was the end of the tractate, and also it had to do with numbers and calculations, and it was one of the most difficult tractates, and he just didn't get it that day. So comes his father, and he's sitting there, and he sits down and teaches him that page, and he's learning it, and he's understanding it, and all the math and all the thing is working out, and it's simple for him. So
Wow.
his father, now that was able to explain to him like 100% perfect, was like, mate, so he goes to him, tishteh mashu. So he comes, he takes a glass of water, he says, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, shehakol nהיה bidvaro. He tells him, coffee was it maybe? And he tells him, Lo kivanta tov. You didn't have the proper kavanah. You're supposed to say Baruch atah Hashem, and you're supposed to think about this over here, and you're supposed to pay over there. You didn't have the right intention in your bracha. The son stops and says, Abba, mefa ta yodea? How do you know this, Abba? How do you know kavanot? How do you know daf gemara? Abba, you were secular. You never picked up a chumash in your life, let alone the hardest page in Gemara. How do you know about kavanot of brachot? What's going on? So his father reveals to him. He says, "Bischut Shabbat, because of the Shabbat, the Shabbatot that I kept, they gave me an additional schut. What's the schut? That every time that you learn something, they let me learn it up here. So every time that you learn a page of Gemara, they let me learn a page of Gemara up here. And I just didn't think it was fair that the only reason that I'm learning is because you're learning. I understand it 100% and you don't understand it. I didn't feel it was fair. So I asked for permission if I could come down to you in a dream and teach it to you. I thought it was only fair." So he says, wow. He wakes up from the dream and he thought, it was still a dream. He goes to his Gemara, he opens up the Daf Yomi, and the teaching that his father gave him was on point. He knew every single thing. It was a real dream.
Wow.
The story just started. It's an amazing story. That's why I'm taking my time to tell it over. So the question arose, what was the merit of this Jew? What was the schut that he merited to this? That he merited to... He didn't keep a stitch of the Torah for 85 years. He's learning Torah in the heavens. What did he do? I mean, many people kept Shabbat. Many people did Teshuvah. Nobody's coming back in a dream and doing all this. It can't just... Something is off. So the question started to come back, to go around the circles, yeshivot, shuls. What was the merit of this man? They already knew the question of, does he get buried in this cemetery, that cemetery? But what was the merit of this man that he's right now in such a high place in the heavens? So, the name of the father was Sason Guri. So they said. So they were asking around. Guri Azia. So there was one Rabbi Schwartz, his name. He says, "Are you guys talking about Sason Guri?" He says, "Are you talking about this one gentleman, Sason Guri?" He says, "Yes." He goes, "You want to know why he has this ma'ala in the Shamayim right now? Why he's at such a high level in the heavens? I'm going to tell you. I have the answer." So before I tell you this part of the story, I have to give you a 5-minute lesson about Iruv. You know that one of the 39 melachot, one of the things that is prohibited to do on Shabbat is to carry, right? You're not allowed to carry. In order to carry from a private domain to a public domain, from one place to there, what do you have to do? You have to have an Iruv. What's an Iruv? Most people don't know, but besides that string that ties up the certain properties together, the poles or whatever it is that the rabbis use nowadays for Eruv, they also need to have a piece of food that binds all the people in the city. Like I'm talking about Israel right now. Like for example, right now, right before Pesach, it's customary that on Leil Pesach, the rabbi takes a matzah and makes a special blessing of the Eruv for the city or for whatever the area is on the matzah, and he does it for the year. Why? Because the matzah will hold for the year. It's a type of food. So besides the string, also the matzah, and that gives everybody the ability to have an eruv. One thing that you should know, that the eruv is null and void if there's two things. If there's a Jew that desecrates Shabbat b'faresia in public, or if there's a goy in the town. So we have a problem, right? Because we have goyim everywhere, and we also have many Jews that don't keep Shabbat. So there's not one eruv that's kosher. The only thing that you could do is that you go into that Jew's home that doesn't keep Shabbat, or to that goy's home that doesn't, the goy's home, and ask him if you can take a part of his home. Can I purchase one of these tiles from you? Can I purchase a nail from you? By purchasing something in his property, it helps us tie it, and then the eruv will be good. What's the problem with that? Imagine somebody knocks on your door. I want to buy one of your tiles. What do you want to buy one of my tiles for? And not only that, why me? Right away, what do you think? You think that's what? The Gemara tells. The Gemara tells us kishuf. Right away, it's kishuf, witchcraft. Why do you want this tile? Why do you want this nail? This, that. So because it would feel like, when a Jew knocks on the door for a Gentile, that he's going to ask him for that, it's going to be kishuf, it would say, no, and they wouldn't want to live with each other. And that's one of the reasons that they did that. So Goyim and Jews don't live with each other. So what do? So this is very interesting. Since you can't go to every single person's home, there are two entities in Israel that have the right to everybody's property. They can go into anybody's home if they want to. They have the law on their side for that. A police officer, they can. They need a search warrant. Firemen, the fire department, they're allowed to go into a person's home without even his permission. Meaning, if there's fire and there's danger, they're able to knock on the door or even bust it down and go in. The law is on their side. As a matter of fact, it tells of the story of when Trump visited Israel. They knocked on the door. They went in Jerusalem. They said, Trump is visiting and we're scoping out all the apartments. Also, we want to have somebody over here to protect him. They said, no, you can't come into my house. They said, sorry, this is the fire department. He says, bring me a warrant. He says, no, this is not the police. This is the fire department. And they were able to come, and he couldn't do anything. So, what you could do is you can make a contract with the fire department for all of Israel, that you buy a stake in the fire department, since they have that law, that right, and because you have that, then the eruv works for all of Israel.
Is that what everybody does here too?
I don't know. This is the first time I ever heard any of this. I'm not very versed in eruvin, but that was one way. The second company that has the right to come to anybody's home is the electric company. The electric company, that little box that we have outside of our homes or in buildings, or the meter, that belongs to them. They have the right to walk into your property, service that meter. You can't say anything. As a matter of fact, there was also a story in Israel where the electric company said, hey, we need to come and dig in your backyard. No, you can't. We're going to call the police. I said, go ahead, call the police. He calls the police and says, the electric company, we can't do anything. And they went and they dug and they did what they had to do. And they said, if we cause any damage, we'll pay you. But to stop us, you can't stop us. So, back to our story. Huh? I don't know about that. Okay, so back to our story. So now, this rabbi that remembered, Sason Guri. Remember that rabbi that we said, Rabbi Schwartz? What does he say? I know this guy. Why? He says, because 30 years ago, we were struggling with the eruv. And I went to the electric company, and we tried to explain to them that if they can sell us a piece of the box, and that will give the eruv for everybody. So when they went to the electric company and they stated their case, they didn't understand anything. They kicked him out. They came back again, kicked him out. Finally, they asked to be for a supervisor. Who's the supervisor? Sason Guri. They tell him the story, and he tells them, look, everything that you told me, I don't understand anything. But what I do understand that it's important for you. Not only is it important for you, but my own son is just now Choser B'Tshuva. Ro'i just started, so I'm sure it's something that's important for him. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to okay it. And not only that, there's 15 more branches. I'm going to get all of them to sign on for the exact same thing. And he went and he got all the signatures. And all the signatures to the electric company that they were able to have this document that gave the Eruv for all of Eretz Yisrael. So he says, in his merit that he helped others keep Shabbat, the Shabbat kept him. The Shabbat, after 85 years, 3 weeks before he's going to die, said, this guy is not going to die without keeping Shabbat. 3 weeks before, what happens? All of a sudden he gets sparked like a flame. All Shabbat, Kil Chata, no matter what. Why? It makes no sense that it would happen. The Shabbat said, no. You helped so many people keep Shabbat. There's no way you're not going to keep Shabbat. There's no way you're coming up to the Shamayim without keeping Shabbat under your belt. מי ששומר את השבת, השבת שומרת אותו. And we can see from the story. I heard the story. I loved it. First of all, now I understand how Eruvim work. I love that whole electric company and all that. That was great, right? But in general, look at the
wires, you know.
Yeah. Look at look what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Look what's happening in the Shamayim. This is a story from 4 months ago. Super fresh. It's not like from
Right.
And this is not only that, the rabbi heard it from the rabbi himself that knew him and knew the whole story. So it's a beautiful thing. So we see that Shabbat was parnasah. Shabbat saves a person from death. Shabbat atones for all sins. Shabbat counts as if you keep the entire Torah. Shabbat mechaper al avodah zarah. Shabbat also helps you days before you die to come up to the Shamayim with the zchuyot.
What's the one before?
Avodah Zarah, all the mitzvot. We said that we had that a person that worships idols can be forgiven completely if he keeps Shabbat k'ilchata. One last thing, and this is just like as a bonus. When the pasuk says "Lo tevaru esh bechol moshvotechem," do not burn fire in your homes beyom Shabbat on Shabbat. I just want to put it out there because there's not one person who's not struggling with anger. One reason or another. There's people that they're not angry usually, but there's always that one person that knows how to push their buttons, and sometimes they're around on Shabbat. You have to be very careful. Lo livaor esh b'Shabbat. Don't let your internal fire of anger burn on Shabbat. You got time. You got to take a day off on Shabbat. Make a deal with him. Look, I'll give you Sunday. Give me Shabbat. And then on Sunday, tell him, let's talk about. I'll give you Monday and give me Sunday.
And good Asa to do that, like say that to that voice, like thank you for sharing, but that was me in the past. I don't deal with that right now.
Yeah, there's in AA, in Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the steps that they give them is, it's not that you're giving up drinking forever, just not today.
Yeah, it's not.
Just today. Today you don't drink. Tomorrow, bottles. As much as you want. Today, no. When tomorrow rolls over, I said, just today, no. Tomorrow, as much as you want. Then you go. You just say, fight the battle one day at a time. Similarly for Shabbat, when the Yetzer Hara comes and you try to listen, not today. Tomorrow you come, I do everything. Whatever you want. I'm not going to keep nothing. Tomorrow. Tomorrow's another day. Just like he sketches us, you sketch him.
I wanted the recipe a few months ago. It was a whole long thing, whatever. He came out to be wrong, but it was 5-10 minutes before Shkia. I told him, not now. After Shabbos, we'll deal with it. It worked.
Baruch Hashem. Also, there's a story of the Baal Shem Tov that a robber pulled him over on the side of the road and wanted to kill him. He wanted to kill him. So the Baal Shem Tov told him, he says, no problem. Do whatever you want to do to me, but can we just not do it here? Can you just do it there? He moved him to the other side. All of a sudden, the guy changed his mind. What happened? That specific spot had somewhat of negative energy in it. Somebody got murdered there previously, so the guy had that to murder. He said, moved over there. He changed his mind completely. Sometimes you have to work b'tachbulot. Tov, Hashem varech otchem, sameach otchem. Nice little lesson about Shabbat. Bezrat Hashem that we merit to keep Shabbat k'ilchata. and that we merit to get all the goodness that comes from the Shabbat. Ki hi mekor habercha, and each person get the blessing that they need. The refuah, the bri'ut, the parnasa, the zivugim. Just like Shabbat is the zivug of Am Yisrael, that every single person find their zivug through Shabbat. Shabbat, plug in. There's a, I heard this from Rabbi Mansour a few years ago. I'll just say this, and with this I'll conclude. It says, a lot of people don't understand the power of Shabbat and the value of Shabbat, right? We see people that on Shabbat, what do? They go to play basketball, they go play soccer, they go swimming, they do all the, they do things. Oh, it's allowed on Shabbat. It's allowed. But it's Shabbat, even though it's allowed, you're wasting your time. There's so much better things you could do. You can get plugged in on a much higher level. It's like, what if I told you that Bank of America gives you 25 hours to go into their vaults, and for 25 hours you can take as much money as you want. As much as you go in with all the bags, roll up with trucks, and just empty it out for 25 hours. During that 25 hours, would you go play basketball?
No.
During those 25 hours, would you go play tennis? No. Would you go lay out by the pool? Why? Because you can take as much as you want, right? From the vault from Bank of America. That's Shabbat. Hashem tells you, I'm giving you 25 hours. Take as much as you can. Why would you go play basketball instead of take all the shefa and the brachot that are available? That's the power of Shabbat. Bezat Hashem, that we merit to all the brachot and all the yeshot. Hashem vayechotchem, sameach etchem.